Hello everyone, greetings of the day. Welcome you all for the 17th video of learning Swift programming language. These are the topic that we have covered from video 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12 and 13 to 16. Let's move towards the today's topic. The first topic that we are going to see today is app lifecycle method. For an application, we'll be having four stages. That is launching an application and it will come to the visible phase, that is active, and we can move this to the multitasking or else to the background when we click on the other application, or else we can kill the app. So these are the stages of applications we are having. We have seen the life cycle of view controllers before. In that, for every application we will be having screens. So before moving to the next screen or before appearing the current screen, so what all need to be happen, what all need to do, that we can manage with the view control lifecycle methods. These methods are already provided from the Apple side, so we can use that and customize our application. Likewise, in the app lifecycle methods, we are still having some methods that are provided from the Apple side, so that we can use and do the things on the life cycle of application. The thing is, up to iOS 13 we are having only this app delegate methods. After iOS 13 we are having scene delegate methods as well. So these are the methods we are having in the app lifecycle methods. So when I move the application to the background, when I terminate the application, or when I launch the application, these methods are automatically will be called. So what is our requirement? We just want to mention within these functions. See, the first application delegate method is did finish launching with options. So this will be called when we launch the application. Before it visible, when we launch the application itself, this method will be called. So what are the things we need to enter here, we can use here. And then when the app reaches the active state, the next delegate method, application did become active. And when the app moves to the background, that is when we go to the multitasking tab and then we can switch to the next application, means our current application will go to the background. At that time, application did enter background method will be called. And when we came back to our application again, then application will enter foreground will be called. And finally, if we terminate our application, application terminate will be called. So these are the delegate method that Apple itself providing for us, and this will be called automatically. So what all we have been required, we just want to enter here. So as I said, before iOS 13 we are having only these delegate methods. We doesn't have scene delegate methods. That means scene delegate method means in one screen itself we'll be having different scenes. That is, if you open the YouTube scenes and all application, while we playing something, we can minimize that and scroll the other things. So in that single application we are having two screens. Likewise, if we are using a tab and all, we can work with the two screens. So in that case, each screen will be managed with the scene delegate method. So the entire application will be managed in the app delegate method. In the application, we'll be having different screens. That screens will be managed in the scene delegate method. In the scene delegate method, these are the delegate methods we are having. The first one is when the scene is being created, the first delegate method will be coming. And when we remove that scene, that is when we move to the multitasking screen, or else we terminated that scene, closed that scene, means this second scene did connect will be called. And then when it will come active, scene did become active will be called. And while we are using an application, like if you YouTube music or other music applications and all, if immediately if any phone call arrives, we need to do something, right? That minimize the volume, or we need to pause the song, like that and all we can do in this scene will resign active. So that method will handle those things. And then the scene did enter background. For example, if we are typing a long forms, and then in the middle we need to switch to the other application and need to come back. So while we move to the other app, if we need to save these forms, we can do from this scene did enter background. And then scene will enter foreground. So that is when we coming back to the application again, this delegate will be called. So in the form, as I said, if we save something, we can uh, put back in the current screen. So these are the delegate methods that we have available in the scene delegate method. So I have listed when we launches an application, so these are the methods automatically will be called. The first one will be application did finish launching. Second one will be the scene. Third, as you know, you have studied in the view controller lifecycle, that is the view did load, and then view will appear, scene will enter foreground. Though these are the 1 to 7 I have written here, right? So these are the things will happen from the in the order I have listed here. So when we open the application, these 7 things will be happening. After the view did appear, it will stop. When we move our screen to the multitasking screen, so the scene will resign active will be called. And when we move to the other app, scene did enter background will be called. And when we kill the application, scene did disconnect will be called. So these are the delegate methods that we are used for the app lifecycle. The next topic that we are going to see is GCD, Grand Central Dispatch. That is, we have seen the API calls and all in the previous video. In the API call, it will be a time consuming process. That is, we know that every code will be executed in a linear manner. So if there is any time consuming process, and when we hit on that, it will freeze our screen until it completes, then only it will move to the next phase. Instead of keeping the time consuming process in the front end, we can process that from the back end. For that, this GCD will help. Let's understand these terms first. What is threads? That is, I have explained about the code execution process, right? This code execution process is called as thread. We are having two type of thread. That is the main thread that will work on the front end, and then the background thread that without affecting the front end, it will be handling from the background. How the threads will be working? So we can create the thread and give them to the system, and the system will handle the execution part. We doesn't have the control over the thread, that is in what order it need to execute and all we cannot able to say. We can just create a code execution process and give to the system, and the system will run and provide us the result. So this is how the threads will work. And the one important thing is, in the main thread always we need to run the UI. That is the screen what we are seeing is the UI. So these components all need to be there in the main thread always. And any remote resource, that is we are fetching data from the background like the API calls and all, definitely need to go with the background threads. That is the time consuming process and all we need to send to this background threads. GCD automatically create threads and execute them in the most efficient way. That is, if we have a process and we send that process to the GCD, it already have an existing threads with them. So it won't create a new thread for us. In their existing thread, it will pass our functions and make it happen. So that is what this GCD will do. Once again, I will explain this. GCD will be having threads. And when we have our own functions, that is time consuming functions or UI things, whatever things, we can pass it to the GCD. GCD will pass these functions into their existing threads and do the execution. The most important GCD function is async. With this async, we can able to run the code asynchronously, that is without affecting the main code. This async will help to push some of our code to the background thread, and once that completed, push back to the main thread. So this is what this async will do. This async will inform the system where you want to run the code. There are four background queues, that is we can able to provide the priorities. We may send a lot of code into the background, and we can inform the system that when this need to happen and what priority it need to provide. So I have listed here the user interactive, user initiated, the utility queue, and the background queue. Out of this four, user interactive is the highest priority background thread, because in order to keep the user interface working, this need to be completed. And then the next one is the user initiated. This should be used to execute task requested by the user. Even though this is not important as user interactive, we are keeping the user waiting in order to continue our application. So this also need to be completed. And then the next one is the utility queue. This should be for the long running task, that is the user is aware of, okay, this task will be consume a lot of time but not desperately needed now itself. In that cases, we will be assigning under the utility queue. And the background task is the again the long running task, and the user isn't actively aware of. That is the least care about this process to complete, means we can directly pass into this background queue. So these are the four background queues, four priority levels that we are providing for this threads to function. And the syntax for this async we will be using as a trailer closing syntax. And as we know, if we are using closures, we need to be make sure there is no strong reference cycles will be created. But because of this GCD, this will run the code once and then throws it away. That is, it won't create any strong reference cycles. Let's see the implementation of async. See here, we have provided the dispatch queue dot. This is the syntax for providing the async. Inside the curly braces, we will be providing our functions to run. So I have mentioned here as the user initiated priority level. So this is the syntax you can see. This will take to the background, the first image. The second image here that I have mentioned at the bottom is the main thread, dispatch queue dot main dot async, because as this is an UI component, we need to pass this into the main thread. If there is any time consuming and the API calls and all, will be go with the background thread, and the UI components will be go with the main thread. The next one is the perform selector. This is the another way of using GCD. In this perform selector also we have having the two options in background on main thread. So I have provided the image here. With this, whatever the functions we need to pass in the background, we can go with the perform selector in background. And for mentioning the function, we need to provide add object C. As well as if we need to pass anything on the main thread also, the syntax will be perform selector on main thread. Again, that function we need to mention here as add object C. So this is how we can pass the functions we have to function in main thread or in the background. The next topic that we are going to see is UI collection view. In iOS, major we want to know about two views, that is the table view and the UI collection view. We have already studied about the table view. More or less, the functions and all will be similar to the table view. Now let's see about the collection view. Here I will explain about an application. This is the application that I'm going to explain in order to learn about the UI collection view. So here in the navigation bar I have added a add button. So if we click on this, it will take to the photos. There we can able to select the photos whichever we have been required. So here I'm selecting one image. After that I can choose it, and then it will arrange it in a collection view. So if I click on this, I will get a alert pop-up with a text field. This alert pop-up with a text field we have been seen in the previous video, and whatever the name that I'm typing here will be replaced with the existing name. So if I go with the again, I'm going to select means. So it will be neatly arranged in a collection view. So this is what collection view means, and let's see how to implement this. As usual, we will be starting the application from the storyboard. So from the object library, we can go with the collection view controller. So drag and drop here. After that, I'll be marked it as an initial view controller, and then I'm going for the editor embedded in navigation view controller, so that it will be aligned in an view controller. So since I'm selected the collection view controller, I'll be provided with an collection cell along with it. See, you can see this cell along with this view controller. Likewise, we are getting a cell in the table view, right? Similar to that, collection view also will be providing a cell for this collection view controller. After this, I'm having a view controller that is of UI collection view controller, and mapping that view controller with this. See here. So it's a UI collection view controller and I'm mapping here. After that, I need to provide this cell proper intent. That is, by clicking here from the size inspector, I'm providing the cell's width and height. Afterwards, in the section insert, I'm providing the height, top, bottom, left and right. So how much distance from top it need to be 10, left it need to be 10, and from the other collection it need to be 10. So if there is any 2-3 tiles are there means, so the gap between one tile to other as well as to the end. So in the section insert we can able to provide that. Once finished this, I'm inserting an image view and a label into this cell. From the object library I can drag and drop here. So if I go with the image view, again I'm adding the constraints here that we have learned before itself. So how to add constraints as well as the width and height I have been mentioned. Similar thing for the label. Constraints added, width and height has been mentioned. Once this storyboard work has been completed, I have been created another class, that is the demo cell collection view cell. This is a UI collection view cell, so that by clicking this person, I have assigned this class here. See, for this cell I am provided a identifier as person. After that I am assigning this class, so that I can able to map this. So these two things I am mapping in this UI collection view cell class. And then again from the object library I have added a button here in the navigation bar and provided the system item as add. After that, since this view controller is linked to this view controller, I have mapped for the add button pressed. After this only the actual code is happening. So the add button pressed. So this is the function I have been linked with from the storyboard. So whenever I click on the add button, this function will execute. So in this function, what I have written is, if I click on the add button, I want to take that screen to the photos in order to select the images. So let picker equal to UI image picker controller. So if I want this function, I need to be adopted with this protocol, that is UI image picker controller delegate and UI navigation controller delegate. So if I added to this two protocols, we don't want to particularly mention any functions. That is, the functions associated with this protocol are kept as option. Okay, so you won't get any errors because of adding these protocols. So this will execute. When I click on the add button, we have been allow editing, I have been true. That's why when I click on the image, it allow me to crop the image, or the picker delegate is self, and then I'm presenting this. So this is what happening when I click on the add button. Now let's see how to show the collection view. Similar to the table view, we are having some functions, right? How many rows it need to be there, and what all need to be there in that rows, and in if we click on that row, what need to happen. So each one have been defined in one functions. So similar to that, collection view also having similar kind of functions. Before that, we have been created a person class here with the name and image. So this is what we are going to show in the collection view. See, this is the first function, that is the number of items. So we can mention here, similar to the table view, here how many rows needed that we are defined in the table view. Here now how many items. So here I have mentioned a variable. It is an array of person class, that is it will be having image and a label. So the count of this I'm adding to this number of items. After that, cell for item. For each collection view cell, what need to be there? We are defining the cell here. That cell with an identifier, as I mentioned, it's already provided in the storyboard. So that identifier I have been mentioned, and typecasting it to a demo cell collection view cell to this class. So if it fail, fatal error will be printed, and then so we'll be having index path dot row, right, in table view. Similar to that, people index path dot item will be selecting here. After that, person dot name will be added to the demo label. So up to this we'll see, and after that, what will happen while we selecting the image, we'll check that. So as we see, if I click on the add button, I'll be taking to the photos. There I can able to select the images. So this is the code. If I select any images there, it will be taken back and provided to me in the application. So this code helps me for that. This function is associated with the protocol of UI image picker controller delegate and UI navigation controller delegate. Okay, so this function will be called automatically. So here you don't want to learn everything in detail. This is available everywhere. So you just need to know that this function is needed. That is, this function is needed to get an image from the photos to our application. So here I'm adding the name and an image. So this is the place where after we are selecting the image from photos, I'm getting this as an image name here. After that, I'm taking this into a class and appending to the variable defined as person. After that, collection view, I'm reloading it and dismissing that. That's all. So this function is to provide a path. So you don't want to go in depth. So this is the function assigned with the protocol, and this will be called automatically. By adding the press button, you will be taken to the photos, and if you select any photos, this function will be executed, and the image you have selected will be there in this image name, and I'm taking to the class and appending to this variable. After that, reloading the collection view. That's all. So we have received our image in this variable. So let's again come back to the cell for row. Here already we know that demo label has been written. In order to get the image, we initially need to get the path. After that, cell.demo_image_view.image equal to, we need to do this in order to align our image in the collection view. This part is for styling of the image view. Border color, border width, corner radius that I have been mentioned here. Okay. So that's how you have seen that these corners and all everything will be assigned from this code. So we have completed the number of items in section and the cell for row. Add button pressed has been completed. This thing for after selecting the images, what need to happen, and this is the place where what will happen if I select the item of a collection view, that is did select item at. So here we need a pop-up with a text field, and if I write something on that, it need to update on the collection view label. Again I'm selecting people of index path.item. This is the code you already know in order to show the alert pop-up and with text field. So we are having actions like cancel and OK. So if I press OK, what need to happen is this person dot name need to be this custom new name. Person dot name will be altered with the name that we have entered in the pop-up. After that, again I'm reloading the data and presenting it. That's all. So this is about this application. See, whenever I click this, it will take to the photos, and if I select, I can able to crop this if want, and if I choose, it will take back to my place, and if I click on this, a pop-up with the text field I'm getting. So in that, if I type something, it will be changed here. So in this application, we have studied about the collection view mainly, and in order to select the images from the photos, how to do that. So this is about the collection view. With this, we are wrapping the session for today. Thank you.